You think you're tough? Think you could have survived in the Middle Ages? Let's test that. Just one day. No weapons, no Wikipedia, no comfy shoes. One day living the life of a regular medieval peasant. Because here's the truth. You wouldn't last till lunchtime. I know it sounds dramatic. You're picturing nights, feasts, and castles. You think you'd wake up in a hay bed, chase down some roasted boar, then spend the evening by a fire drinking ale with your sword laid across your lap. But that's the Hollywood version. The real thing? Filth, disease, bone-deep hunger, the constant stench of something dead. If you've ever gotten cranky over slow Wi-Fi, buckle up. See, we've grown soft. Too soft. Our worst days now. Delayed packages, bad customer service, or losing our phone charger. Back then, just waking up was a gamble. And if you think that's an exaggeration, let's walk through it. Hour by hour. No skipping. No fast-forwarding. One full day of medieval life. Let's see if you make it past breakfast. Let's start where all days begin, with food. You wake up not to an alarm, but to the sound of livestock and the ache in your back from sleeping on a straw-stuffed sack. There's no pillow, no sheets. You slept in your only outfit because changing into sleepwear isn't a thing, and you're already hungry. But don't head to the kitchen. There isn't one. You share a single room with your entire family, and maybe the chickens. Smoke clings to everything from the indoor fire pit that never fully goes out. And as you drag yourself to the hearth, you find the same pot you left there yesterday, still warm, still bubbling. It's not stew. It's not soup. It's pottage, the medieval answer to survival. You dip a chunk of stale bread into the pot. That bread? Ground with stone. Every bite carries flecks of grit that wear your teeth down like sandpaper. You'll need those teeth later. But you're going to lose them early. You chew slowly, hoping not to chip a molar, and wonder if the rye is clean today. Because there's a fungus, ergot, that can live in your grain and rot your mind. Hallucinations, seizures, burning limbs. Back then, they thought it was witchcraft. Really, it was just lunch. This is your morning. You haven't even left the house. I'm not making any of this up. Every little comfort you take for granted, safe food, clean air, privacy, medicine, even a place to go to the bathroom, it's all modern. You live like a god now compared to what your ancestors endured. So let's keep going. If bread can destroy your teeth and poison your brain, what's waiting for you in your next cup? Let's talk about water. Let's talk about meat. Let's talk about how your lunch could kill you faster than your enemies ever would. You're still chewing that crust of bread. Your jaw hurts already, but you can't afford to waste it. Every crumb counts when food isn't guaranteed tomorrow. It's heavy, coarse, and sour, not because it's artisanal, but because it's made with whatever grains your village could scrape together. Most often, that's rye, sometimes barley. Wheat is for the rich. But the worst part isn't the taste. It's what's inside. The flour was ground at the local mill, between stone wheels worn smooth by decades of use. Bits of those stones end up in the flour. Not visible, not avoidable. You grind them into your molars every bite. That gritty texture? It's not rustic charm. It's dental decay in slow motion. And then there's the fungus. If the rye stayed damp too long, or sat in storage too long, it might have grown claviceps purpurea, ergot, a parasite, invisible at first. But once it's in your bread, you're playing roulette with your sanity. It starts with tingling limbs, then burning, then convulsions. Some call it St. Anthony's fire. Others think it's demons. In truth, it's mold in your dough. Eat enough, and your fingers might turn black and drop off. You might see visions, hear voices. Entire villages went mad and died from it. No one knew why, but you still eat. You have to. The pottage in the pot doesn't offer much help either. It's been boiling over the fire for days, sometimes weeks. The ingredients rotate. Yesterday's scraps become the day's lunch. Carrots if you're lucky. Cabbage leeks onions. And maybe a bone tossed in for flavor. But mostly it's just starch and fatigue. Thick, gray, and oddly sour. No spices. No salt unless you're near the sea or filthy rich. If you're wondering about meat, that's cute. You don't eat meat often. Most peasants didn't. If you own an animal, it's more valuable alive. Cows give milk. Chickens give eggs. Pigs are a rare prize, slaughtered maybe once a year. And when you do eat it, there's no cold storage, no freezers, no cling wrap. Meat is hung in the open, smoked if possible, but flies don't care. Neither do worms. The spice trade existed, but pepper, cloves, cinnamon, imported, expensive. Only the nobility can afford to drown rotten meat in saffron and pretend it's gourmet. You pray it doesn't smell too bad. You scrape off the green stuff and cook it longer. And if you think you can just wash it down with water, don't. The well might be contaminated. The stream might carry waste from upstream farms. Waterborne illness is everywhere. Dysentery, cholera, worms. That's why even children drink ale. Every day, multiple times a day. Not because it's fun, but because it's safe-ish. It's called small beer, low alcohol, weak brew, just enough to kill off microbes and keep you hydrated. You might drink 6 to 8 pints a day. More if it's hot, less if the brewing failed and the barrel turned sour. You drink what you have, or you don't drink at all. And before you even start judging that, remember, your ancestors lived like this for centuries. They didn't know about bacteria. They didn't understand decay. They just knew the bread made you sick sometimes. That meat could turn on you. That water might kill your child before nightfall. So you ate what you had. And if it didn't kill you by sundown, you called it a good day. But now we have to ask, if everything that enters your mouth is a gamble, where does all that waste go? What happens to the bones, the scraps, the vomit, the excrement? Let's step outside your home and find out what medieval sanitation really means. Step outside your hut and take a deep breath. Or don't, because the air is thick with the smell of rot, dung, and wet wool. The sun's barely up, and the village is already buzzing. But you're not thinking about chores yet. You're wondering what's safe to eat next, and what'll betray you. Let's head to the market. You pass stalls with sides of meat dangling from wooden beams. No ice, no shade, just flies. Meat is expensive and precious, so nothing gets wasted, not even when it starts to turn. The seller might rub it with ash to keep the insects off. If they're wealthier, maybe a hint of salt. If they're rich, they've used cloves or pepper to mask the stench. But for your family, you'll take what you can afford, which is usually the neck, tail, or organs. That's assuming you can afford any meat at all. Most days you can't. The dairy options aren't much better. Milk spoils within hours unless it's turned into butter or cheese immediately. And even then, mold doesn't ask permission. Cheese gets hard as stone. Butter smells like feet. You scrape, sniff, taste a little. Good enough. Probably. And the water? Forget it. There's a well nearby, but everyone uses it. For washing, for cooking, for dumping out slop when it rains. In towns, sewage leaks into streams. In cities, people relieve themselves in rivers. And no one's boiling anything unless they're brewing. So instead, you drink what everyone drinks. Ale. Small beer is the lifeline. It's brewed lightly and drunk constantly. It is just enough alcohol to kill some of the bad stuff. It's warm, flat, and cloudy, but it won't give you dysentery. You drink it first thing in the morning with every meal, even before bed. Toddlers drink it. Grandmothers drink it. There are no alcoholics here. Everyone's halfway buzzed and no one cares. Because this is survival, not indulgence. And brewing isn't simple. Someone in your household knows how, or you rely on a neighbor who does. You need malted grain, warm water, yeast if you've managed to cultivate it, and hours of time. But it's safer than water. Always. Even if it tastes like wet bread. If you do get sick from something, spoiled food, bad drink, or just about a fate, you don't see a doctor. You don't even know what's wrong. Your stomach cramps? Must be bad humors. Your child vomits all night? Maybe a curse. Maybe a demon. Maybe it was the cheese. Probably doesn't matter. There's nothing to be done anyway. And here's the kicker. Waste is everywhere. Food scraps, bones, ashes, spoiled milk, animal droppings. Nothing that's truly disposed of. You toss it outside, behind the house, into the ditch. Dogs sniff it. Pigs eat it. Rats multiply in it. The same rats that gnaw the bread you left on the shelf. The same rats that will, one day, help spread the Black Death. But that's still in the future. Right now, you're standing barefoot on mud soaked with piss and ale and milk and rain. You still have a full day's labor ahead. But before we go to work, let's finish this trail of waste. Because what you eat and drink must go somewhere. And where it ends up is worse than where it began. Let's talk about toilets. Let's talk about the gutters running through your street, the chamber pot under your bed, and the men who shovel the unthinkable to keep the town from choking on itself. The thing about eating, drinking, and staying alive is that it comes with a guarantee. Sooner or later, your body needs to get rid of the waste. In our time, we barely think about it. Flush, gone, out of sight, out of mind. But in the Middle Ages, waste was everywhere, and it stayed. Start with your own house. If you're lucky, you have a chamber pot under the bed, shared by the whole family. It gets dumped each morning, maybe out the door, maybe behind the house, maybe into the street. If you live in a town or city, you're upstairs in a wooden building. So you open a window, shout, Gardez-lou, a twisted echo of Gardez-low, French for watch out for the water, and toss a night's worth of human waste onto the cobblestones below. Yes, it hits people. Yes, they slip in it. Yes, it runs down into the gutters, mingling with rotten food, dog droppings, dead rats, and blood from the butcher's stall. All of it flows down the middle of the street in slow, sticky streams. If it's summer, the smell is unbearable. If it's winter, the filth freezes into sharp ridges that trip carts and slice open feet. In cities, there might be public latrines, communal holes over cesspits, but they're rare, vile, and always full. In castles, there's a garderobe, a vertical shaft built into the wall, with a wooden seat perched over it. Whatever you drop falls down and seeps into the moat or the earth below. Some castles had their waste pipes empty straight into rivers. So if you're downstream and thirsty, sorry, now imagine the scale of it. Hundreds, thousands of people, all producing waste with no sewer system, no plumbing, no chemical treatment, just gravity, luck, and rain. And when the pits filled up, because they always filled up, someone had to clean them. Enter the gong farmers. These were the night men, the ones paid to climb down into cesspits and shovel out the thick, black, reeking mass of centuries-old waste. They worked after dark, both to avoid the heat and to spare the public from the sight and stench. Their clothes were soaked through. The stench clung for life. They were paid well, but no amount of coin could clean their skin or their reputation. People avoided them in the street. No one wanted to marry one. But without them, the whole city would drown in its own filth. The waste they pulled out, called night soil, was sometimes dumped outside the city. Other times it was used as fertilizer, dumped into ditches, or just piled until the smell got too strong to ignore. And if it rained, it flooded back into homes. Cellars, wells. You're probably feeling nauseous. Good. You should, because this is the environment where people lived, worked, and tried to raise families. And you haven't even gotten to work yet. But now it's dawn proper. The streets are awake. You wipe the crust from your eyes, pull on your itchy, unwashed tunic, and step into a world that smells as sewer and doesn't care. The sun's rising and your labor is expected. Because even if the food's bad and the water's poison and the streets are dangerous, you still have to work. And what that work does to your body, that's what we'll look at next. Let's talk about jobs. Real jobs. Back-breaking, lung-rotting, limb-losing jobs that started before sunrise and didn't end until your body gave out. You're already sweating and it's barely morning. There's no weekend, no time off, no workers' rights. If you're 7 years old, you're old enough to work. Maybe you were sent off last winter to a nearby town to serve under a master, shoemaker, tanner, blacksmith, if your parents could afford to apprentice you. Otherwise, you're on the land, bent over a hoe, blister hands in cold soil, doing the same job your great-grandfather did, and likely with the same tools. Let's say you're a field worker. The sun's up, so are you. 16 hours of plowing, sowing, reaping, whatever the season demands. You've eaten nothing since dawn, and you'll eat again only if the taskmaster allows it. Your back screams. Knees crunch. Feet rot in damp, worn shoes. Your hands are permanently cracked. Nails blackened by dirt you can't scrub away. You stink, but so does everyone else. But at least you're outdoors. Now imagine you're a tanner. Your days are spent waist-deep in vats of urine, animal dung, and lime. Why? Because that's how you soften hides to make leather. You stir the hides with your bare hands. The smell clings to your skin for life. You get sick often, but there's no sick leave. You go blind early. You're not allowed to live in town proper. Your neighbors force you to work at the edge of the village because no one can stand the stench. Or maybe you're a blacksmith. Glamorous, right? Sparks, hammers, steel. Reality check. You breathe in soot and burning metal fumes every day. Your lungs are ruined by 30. Your hearing is shot from constant hammering. Your arms are stronger than most, but your teeth are gone because of ash and grit in the air. It's a badge of honor until you collapse mid-swing. Childhood isn't safe either. A 7-year-old weaving boy in a textile mill might work 12 hours on a spinning frame. No shoes, no break. Fingers sliced open by thread guides. A young chimney sweep. He climbs inside soot-choked flues, lungs filling with poison, bones bending to fit tight brickwork. Children are tools. If one dies, another will be born. And even if you don't have a trade, survival is still a job. Fetching water from the stream, carrying firewood, grinding flour, feeding the animals, fixing the thatch roof before rain gets in. Every day is a race against time, weather, and hunger. There's no fallback, no retirement. If you break your leg or lose an eye, that's it. You become a beggar, if you're lucky. And what do you get for all this? A bowl of gruel, a coin or two a week, maybe some bread. Enough to keep you alive, but never enough to get ahead. You work until your body gives out, and then you're buried in a shallow grave with no marker. Romantic enough for you yet? So let's say you get hurt. An accident in the forge. A festering wound. A fever you can't shake. Who helps you? What does medicine look like? Let's drag your worn body to the only doctor you'll ever know and hope he doesn't kill you faster than injury. You collapse in the field. Maybe it's heat stroke. Maybe it's infection. Maybe it's just years of grinding work finally catching up. But now you're sick, and that's a bigger problem than anything you face so far. Because in the Middle Ages, illness isn't a question of biology. It's a test of faith, a punishment, a mystery. The word germ doesn't exist yet. The idea that invisible organisms cause disease? Absurd. What you get instead is the humors for bodily fluids, blood, phlegm, black bile, yellow bile. Every illness, from a cold to the plague, is blamed on their imbalance. And to the physician, he wears long robes, maybe even a beaked mask stuffed with herbs if there's plague nearby. He doesn't touch you. He's too good for that. He checks your urine in a glass vial, stares at its color in sunlight, maybe even tastes it. He asks questions about your dreams, your stool, your mood. He consults dusty books, not symptoms. And then he offers treatment. That treatment? Almost always bloodletting. A nick in your arm. A bowl to catch it. You're already weak, but draining your blood is supposed to realign your humors. If you don't get better, they cut again. Or place leeches. Or purge you with herbal laxatives. Or smoke you out. Or drill a hole in your skull to release the bad air. If you're lucky, the local wise woman tends to you instead. She knows herbs. She's seen fevers rise and fall. But she's also at risk, because if you die under her care, someone might whisper witch. And that accusation can cost her life. Infections are inevitable. A splinter festers. A blister turns black. There's no sterilization. No gloves. No alcohol wipes. Wounds are packed with moss or rags. If you're wealthy, maybe honey or wine. If not, just prayer. Hope the body fights back. Most times it doesn't. Children die often. Most never see their 5th birthday. Mothers die in childbirth. Teeth rot in mouths. Arthritis cripples hands by 40. Cataracts blind the old. A toothache can turn septic. A scratch from a rusty nail can kill. And dentistry? It's done with pliers. By a blacksmith. on a wooden bench. No anesthesia. One helper holds you down. Another pulls. If the jaw breaks, you deal with it. Still want to romanticize the past? Even the rich suffer. Royalty dies of fevers, tumors, poison wounds, and poorly performed surgeries. The only real difference is that they're buried in fancier tombs. There's no understanding of contagion. Doctors walk from plague patient to plague patient wearing the same robes, touching the same beds. Monks copy old medical texts by candlelight, some of them centuries out of date, filled with astrological nonsense and rituals more than remedies. You could die from a boil, from diarrhea, from childbirth, from a cough, from a rat bite, from a dirty fingernail. But let's say you survive. You heal, sort of. You're weak, scarred in pain, but alive. Still, you're not safe, because illness isn't the only thing waiting to take you. There's justice, too. The kind that cuts, brands, drowns, and tears. The kind that doesn't need to be fair. The kind that doesn't ask. So next, let's see how the law works. Spoiler, it doesn't. You've made it this far, barely, but survival in the Middle Ages isn't just about eating spoiled food, dodging disease, and working yourself into the ground. Now you have to deal with a law, a system less about justice and more about fear. Let's say someone accuses you of theft. A chicken goes missing. You were nearby. No proof. No witnesses. Doesn't matter. The village reeve hauls you in. There's no lawyer. No presumption of innocence. Just suspicion and pain. One option? The ordeal. Trial by fire. Hold a red-hot iron bar for 3 steps. If your burns heal clean, God says you're innocent. If they fester, you're guilty. Or trial by water. You're tied up and tossed into a river. If you float, you're a witch. You rejected the baptismal water. If you sink, congratulations, you're innocent and probably drowned. These weren't just fringe rituals. They were official, accepted, and brutal. Justice wasn't about finding truth. It was about proving obedience to authority and faith. And it wasn't equal. Nobles could demand a trial by combat, or pay someone to fight in their place. You get the rope, the rack, or the branding iron. Petty crimes meant brutal punishments. Steal a loaf of bread? You might lose a hand. Spread rumors? Stocks, where you'd be pelted with filth. Caught lying or fornicating. Public whipping. Adultery? Shaved head, paraded through town. Gossip too much? A scold's bridle. A metal cage clammed over your head and tongue. Women suffered double. Accused of witchcraft? That meant torture. Confessions extracted through fire and blades, and often death. All it took was a neighbor's envy or your herbal remedies to mark you as a threat. And for more serious offenses, rebellion, blasphemy, or crossing a noble, you faced the worst of it. Hanging, drawing, and quartering. You're tied to a cart, dragged through mud and dung to the execution site. Then you're hanged, but not until death. Cut down gasping. Castrated. Eviscerated. Your intestines burned in front of you. Then beheaded. Limbs tied to horses. Pulled apart. Your head on a spike at the city gate. Executions were public. Celebrations, even. Children watched. Vendors sold snacks. The suffering of others was entertainment. Moral theater to remind everyone what happens to those who step out of line. But you might avoid all that by dying in war instead. Because wars weren't neat affairs between 2 armies in a field. They were rolling disasters that devoured the countryside. Lords raised troops, marched them across poor villages, and lived off the land, which meant they stole, burned, raped, and left nothing but charred remains behind. If your village was on a contested border, you might be invaded, pillaged, and conscripted multiple times in a single year. And the battlefield? No strategy, no clean fights. Just mud, screaming, and hacked limbs. You didn't die gloriously. You bled out in muck while rats crept toward the warmth of your insides. So what's left? You've dodged disease, survived labor, escaped the executioner. But you still have to live every single day in a world that's loud, dirty, cramped, and dangerous. No privacy, no peace, no escape. Let's step into that world now. Let's inhale what they smelled, wear what they wore, hear what they heard, feel what it meant to be alive in a time that barely valued life at all. Welcome home, if you can call it that. You duck through a low wooden door into a one-room house packed with people, smoke, and noise. The air is thick with the smell of sweat, damp straw, with ash and the sour reek of wet wool. If it's winter, the shutters are closed tight to keep out the cold, trapping in every breath, every cough, every odor. If it's summer, the flies never leave. There's no chimney. The smoke from your hearth rises and lingers, stinging your eyes. Everything smells like it's been slowly roasted over a dung fire. Your clothes, your hair, your bed. You share your space with your entire family, plus any livestock you don't trust to leave outside. There's no privacy. The baby cries. Your father snores. Someone's always farting, spitting, or scratching. You sleep side by side, sometimes head to foot, under flea-ridden blankets that haven't been washed in years. That itch? It's lice. Everyone has them. You have a wooden comb just to scrape them off your scalp, your beard, your clothes. Your clothes, itchy, coarse, and unchanging, are likely made from wool or rough linen. You don't have multiple outfits. If you're poor, you wear the same tunic for months, maybe years, until it falls apart. Shoes are leather, if you're lucky, or just scraps wrapped around your feet. Wet feet mean infections. Infections mean fever. Fever means death. You don't bathe, not because you're lazy, but because bathing is rare and risky. Bathhouses are expensive or closed. Clean water is hard to come by, and many believe that soaking opens the pores to disease. Better to just rub dirt off with more dirt. Outside, the streets are alive, literally. Barking dogs, screaming vendors, crying children, livestock wandering freely. Music comes from a drunk with a hurdy-gurdy. Laughter from the alehouse. Screams from a fight nearby. You understand most of what you hear, but not all of it. Because even within England, dialects are so local that a traveler from 50 miles away might as well be from another country. News doesn't travel fast. A nobleman's death might reach your ears months later. Rumors are your internet. Word of mouth your only connection to the wider world. Superstition fills the gaps. Curses, omens, saints. These explain what reason cannot. Entertainment? Mostly cruelty. Bear baiting. Public hangings. Cockfights. Mock trials. The suffering of others is the only free spectacle. And above it all, hierarchy. You know your place. You were born into it. You will likely die in it. Challenge it, and you risk punishment or exile. A Lord's word outweighs yours 100 times over. Your church watches your soul. Your neighbors watch your behavior. The walls, such as they are, always listen. But here's the twist. Even amid all this, filth, fear, hunger, people lived. They sang. They told stories. They laughed at bad jokes and loved badly, but earnestly. They weren't just survivors. They were you, just in hellish conditions. And that's the point. You think you're tough? Maybe you are. But the medieval world didn't care about toughness. It ground people down, 1 inch at a time. One bad loaf, one cough, one wrong word. The next time you flush a toilet, sip clean water, or complain about traffic, remember this. You're not soft. You're lucky. And luck, more than anything else, is what separated their day from yours.